702.
World of Work.
So today on our World of Work feature, we are having a conversation about workplace comfort and ergonomics. I mean, the science of designing work environments that fit the physical and cognitive needs of workers is what ergonomics is about, right? And the goal really is to optimize the relationship between the people, your employees, you as an employee, and your tasks. The tools that are available, the workplaces, you want to reduce the risk of injury, you want to enhance overall well-being. So those are the things you've got to consider when you are even thinking about work environment, right? And we spend a lot of our working hours at work sitting, right? We're probably typing, scrolling, some of you are doing other tasks, but you're not thinking twice about what all that does to our bodies or even our minds. But as more people juggle between home offices and shared spaces and digital screens, there is this question emerging. What does real comfort at work actually mean? We've invited Andries Burger, who is the CEO of Check for SME, to guide us through this conversation. And I'm interested in what makes work comfortable for you. Like, what matters most to you in the workplace for you to say, there's comfort here. There is a conducive environment that's created for me as an employee. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. Andries, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning to you, Clement.
So when we talk about work or comfort in the workplace, I mean, some of us will often reduce it to furniture and the posture of that environment. But what else do we need to consider when we talk about comfort in the workplace?
Clement, there's quite a few things that you have to look at. The OSAC is very, very clear that you have to look after your workers. The first part of the OSAC says that it's the employer responsibility to make sure that the health and the safety of his people are looked after. Now, when you look at ergonomics, it goes further than just sitting. Most of us, the newest stats comes out, the people that are sitting, and most of us sitting about 8 hours a day working, is becoming actually worse than smoking. So ergonomics is about creating a situation where your environment is good for your body. Now, if you go back from Allah to, my wife says, always go back to the Old Testament. If you go back to the 1980s and you work under the mines, these trains, you look forward, but the train moves right. So you have to bend the whole time. And if you ever look at many of the people working, the way they're sitting, the way they're breathing, the way their screens are, and then, of course, cell phones, the ergonomic position is busy catching up with them, that they form this bubble in the back of their head. If that causes major headaches, and that their bodies are not designed to sit the whole day. We have to move around. So one of the things that many of the guys are doing to prevent this fatigue of the eyes and the fatigue of the body and the fatigue of the neck is actually getting up or tables that is higher and just walk around and do the right breathing. It's really, ergonomics is a thing that affects the entire body. If you have a look at people that stands again, if you don't have the right shoes on, those people get major issues with the lower back, they get issues with their feet. And that's a basic ergonomics. Ergonomics is about looking after the environment that you work in so that you are able to produce or perform without getting hurt. That's health and safety for you, and that's environmental ergonomics for you. Anything else that I can help you with?
And when we talk about ergonomics, I mean, that's often seen as a luxury or something for big corporations. How do smaller organizations or even remote workers begin to prioritize comfort without breaking the bank? And what do you say to some companies who think, when we use terms like that and, what they come with in terms of our expectation as an employer, that's not for us as a small company, or what are the benefits that come with that? What do you say?
All right, let's go back. Companies has got one goal and one goal only, whether they like to admit it or not, needs to make money. So what they want out of the employees is maximum productivity. You can't have maximum productivity out of the employees if they are working in uncomfortable, unsafe circumstances or areas. So a stupid example will be the chair they sit on. If that chair is not ergonomically helping them to produce, that's what the chair is there for, is to help you so you're uncomfortable so you can actually produce better work. If you work on many of your clients or your people listening work in manufacturing and they work on the floor, if they are not looked after, their feet is not looked after by standing the whole day, that becomes uncomfortable. And you must understand, a few years ago they did studies, and it's proved that if the guys are not comfortable in the work that they do, or they are not looked after in the way that suits them in their bodies, that people get sick. Now, every time a person gets sick, you must remember that's costing you productivity. That's your bottom line that's busy getting hurt. That's clients that's not looking after. That's your bottom line that's not getting hurt. The whole idea of ergonomics is to make people work in a work that is comfortable, not uncomfortable, not painful. Because if they can do that and they can do the work without pain, remember, it doesn't matter the size of your company. Bigger companies may have bigger budget, but small companies, just upgrading your chair. Let the guys walk around a little bit. That sounds like stupid things, but these things help. And train your people. Without training, it is virtually impossible to create a culture where people understand that they have a responsibility towards themselves. The owners of the companies have a responsibility towards their workers, because that's what the Act says. And then if they then look after the workers so they're comfortable in doing their work, more work will be produced. And then you get people into that does ergonomic risk assessments, that does ergonomic audits, and see, listen, you need to change that. Listen, you need to change that. And again, people think you have to do it all at once. No, it's a question of doing it over a period of time. And one of the studies that they've done is to do with ergonomics. They've changed the lighting of the company. And just by changing that, bringing it to the standard that it is, there was a massive increase in productivity. That is what the owner of the company had. Safety is not there to nail him or to make his life uncomfortable. Safety is there to protect both the workers and the employees. And in the end of the day, you want a culture where there's productivity being generated. And economics is one of the things that help it.
Yeah. Look, Andries, this is so important. And I wonder what our listeners' thoughts are in terms of their work environments. How is your working environment? Let me ask a direct question like that. Are you happy with the conditions? Are they comfortable? Are they safe conditions? Can you walk around? Because some people think about working spaces that must actually stimulate alertness and stimulate productivity, but you need a workplace that also supports wellness, right? You need a workplace, not necessarily, workplace that makes you so comfortable, and then you end up being complacent. No, of course you need to strike a balance. And I'm interested in your working environment. How do you assess it? How comfortable are you? How uncomfortable is it? And what makes it comfortable and what makes it uncomfortable? And how does that, at the end of the day, then even affect your productivity? 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702.
702. World of Work.
There's a question I've got here, Andries, from one of our listeners who wants to know where does ergonomics then feature in a world of hybrid and digital work? Like how's this idea of ergonomics evolving to also just accommodate this fast, evolving world of work?
Right. I go back again. The area that you work in, the table you work on, the right height. The chair that you work on, protect your lower back if you sit and working. The lighting in your place must be so that you can read and see what you're doing. If it's too dark or too light, that can hurt you. Clearing, if you have an open window of sun coming in, again, that makes a problem. Noise. All this affect the way that you work and the way your body reacts to your environment. Now, yes, the person asking about digital. I think only the guys working on factory floors get away from that. The rest of us are behind our cell phones or behind computer screens. The idea here is to lift the computer screen so that you have a level to your eyes, so you don't bend down and hurt your upper back and especially your neck area. That is, for the digital guys, have a look at that. And then especially for the digital guys as well, lift your bench if you can, sometimes stand, sometimes walk around, and look at your breathing. One of the things that we really, really forget, and part of ergonomics, is just to breathe when we work. We are so focused on the screens that we forgot that we're human. Sometimes just get up, take a step around the table or 5 steps away, take a little breathing and go back, and then focus again. And again, most of us can focus for about 25 to 30 minutes. If you're a doctor, you can go to 3 hours, but the rest of us, you need to take a break after 20 to 30 minutes, just a small break, refocus and come back. That will help with your productivity. That will help your body to move around. Your body is made to move, so we have to move. And like I said earlier, the fact that we keep on sitting for long periods of time is worse than the old days of smoking. So you need to get up and move. You will find that if you sit for very, very, very long periods of time, your feet start swelling up. That is not good for your health. Therefore, get up, walk around, focus that 5 seconds, just get away from it, go back and focus again. That's for that person that is on the digital side, please do that. It will make a massive difference to your work.
Mm.
Hi, Clement. Just in response to what the expert, your guest there, is sharing, we live in a throwaway society. So companies don't necessarily need you comfortable and able to stand for months or years to come. As soon as you're unable to, they'll replace you. So there's this conveyor belt of labor, and companies don't have to apply themselves to ergonomics or are making sure that places of work are ergonomically suitable to the workers. It's not.
Can I?
Yeah, Andries, you can come in there.
I want to respond. Can I take a few steps back? She's absolutely correct in her assumption in what she's saying, but there's a difference. Firstly, companies need to make money. So let's go to health and safety as a fundamental, as is set out in the law. There's 3 pillars to health and safety. One is financial, which we will talk about now. One is moral, and one is legal. Companies that don't follow the Occupational Health and Safety Act, including your ergonomics, are in a situation they can get sued. That is just the way it is, because there's medical surveillance that you do on your people to prove that the person can prove that, look, I've been hurt by my work. You see this many times in the mines. You see this occupational health and safety in the construction. Just because it hasn't moved into the boardrooms or into most of the companies doesn't mean it's not there. There's penalties if you don't follow these regulations. And we are not a throwaway society. The new stats actually show that the human contact of human work is becoming a hell of a lot more important than what before it is. People want to talk to people. People want to communicate with people. So no, corporations think we're a throwaway. We are not. We are very important. As people, we are very important. And the Occupational Health and Safety Act is there to protect us. And no, we're important. The hell with what they think about us. We are important. So the ergonomics, the bottom line for companies is there's a moral reason for them to do it. There's a financial reason for them to do it. They want to make money and be competitive. You need the right people to make money. You need the right people to be comfortable to make money. So no. They will, and there's a legal reason that the law states that they have to do it. So, and we're not a throwaway society. I disagree. We are, as people, are important. No, the hell with that idea. We're important. The companies must understand that we're more important than AI, more important than anything else. We are the ones that keeps the companies running.
Mm-hmm. Another person says, "Hi, Clement. Please, can you ask your guest there why don't we have the law that forces companies to consider ergonomics?"
The law's there. Remember, wait. The law's there. Go back to the OSH Act. That's a problem. Let me. Clement, give me a second here to backtrack, if you don't mind. The OSH Act is split into a few areas. Firstly, the first part of the Act is the OSH Act itself. Then it's split into different sections. when I say about regulations for different areas, these include your general, your health, your mechanical, electrical, and noise. Ergonomics fall under that. And here's what the law says very, very clearly. An employer, the person you work for, has a responsibility to look after you as an employee. There is no such thing. The law is there. It's just the people don't know how that the law is there and how to implement it. Now, the Department of Labor is supposed to implement this and go to companies and say, listen, where's your safety? Where is this? And if they can't produce it, there's supposed to be a process of dealing, because that's fall on the third pillar of OSAC, which is your legal side. No. Companies has a legal, very clearly. And there is hell of a big fines involved if people don't follow these regulations. If that person, there is an ergonomic regulation that protects people from being hurt at work.
Yeah. But then someone else could argue that there's a difference between what the companies are legally obligated to do in as far as safety.
Stop. No.
Yeah?
All right. Can I bring this to a metaphor to you? I don't know if you're married or not. This morning your wife said, when you get home tonight, there's a word to use, you shall bring milk.
Uh-huh.
Now, when you get home tonight and you didn't bring the milk, you shall be in trouble. The law is not that. There's two laws in South Africa that's very clearly, you are guilty until proved innocent.
Mm-hmm.
The OSAC is one of that. When they declare you guilty, you have to prove you're innocent. Everyone else is innocent to prove that you are not, that you are guilty. The OSAC is very clear. If the people say you're guilty, then you have to prove your innocence. People like when we come to the audit. No. The OSAC, you don't mess around. That thing bites.
Hold on a second, Andries. Let me put the point that I was trying to make to you. I'm saying one person would argue that, of course, the companies will say, this is what we are legally obligated to do to ensure safety in the workplace. But ensuring comfort in the workplace can also be subjective. For instance, I know of workplaces where a simple chair is not conducive enough for you to be sitting there for the hours you expected to be at work for, because you end up with back pains, and the company will still tell you, well, we don't have enough money to buy proper chairs. It's a simple example of just a simple chair. You've said you still, as a company, needs to create a conducive environment that's comfortable enough for Clement to be able to, when I'm sitting on a chair and I'm broadcasting for 3 hours, it's a chair that actually I'm comfortable on and I'm able to be productive without complaining constantly about my back. So what do you say then to companies that say, don't worry, the building is not going to fall off. We've got all the safety signs. So we've followed all of those processes. But a chair is a chair. Just make it work. We just don't have money to get a comfortable one. But that's still comfort, isn't it?
Not if the medical surveillance shows that person gets hurt. Not if that person complains of back injury. Not if that person hands in complaints. Then the company has to respond to that. They have no choice about it. And if they say don't have money, say it, not a problem. Then wait. Tell us in how many months are you going to put 20, 30, 40 rand aside so you can buy me a new chair? And why can't you buy me a second-hand chair? Why can't you buy me a chair for flipping Timo if you have to? That's a third the price. You understand? No, man, there's no excuse. There's or you make a plan or you get into trouble. The OSAC is not, there's no excuses in the OSAC. I can't find any.
Yeah.
Hi, Clement. This is Tumi here. I think a very important part of that, the space of OHS and compliance. And in 2019, on the 6th of December, we as a country passed promulgated the ergonomics regulations. So it's in place. It applies to every employer who could be exposing, and by the way, self-employed as well, people who could be exposing people to ergonomic risks. And ergonomic risks cut across every job, every industry. I must say, whether you work in the office, whether you're a pilot, whether you're a doctor. And that's what I always preach when I go out and do the risk assessments and when I train on ergonomics, because it's a new sphere. Not that it wasn't there, but now specifically there is a compliance part of or required by the employer and the self-employed.
Yeah, Dintle on Twitter says, Clement, at the beginning of COVID, we had a client who requested us to conduct an ergonomics assessment at the houses of employees who needed to be working so they can ensure safe work environments even at home. That's fascinating. Andries, someone wants to know if they work for a company that's not respecting these laws you've spoken about, what avenues are available for them?
That's where it gets a bit hard. You can contact guys like me. And that's what I must admit, Clem, breaks my heart. I have many people phoning me with much more dangerous situations. And the only people that can deal with it is the Department of Labor. They're the only guys that can go and enforce this laws. And if they don't enforce it, everything else falls flat. I'm sorry to admit that, but I have had cases where people died. And I had to phone the minister himself and say, listen, you need to get people out to the site. And I have people phoning me in work conditions, and the only thing I can do is I can phone the Department of Labor and say, listen, there's a problem there. Can you please send your people there? That is the only option we have in this stage in time, except if you can have a medical thing and then move into the legal side and say that you are getting hurt by your work. But the Department of Labor, they're falling a few meters short right now. I'm very sorry to admit, and I'm sorry to hear of that. The guy asking questions. My heart bleeds for him, but I've run into so many walls of the Department of Labor when it comes to people getting hurt. I almost don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah, look, Andries, what I'll do is we'll pass your details to this listener. Thank you so much for making time for us. Andries Burger, CEO of SHEC for SME. It's 11:31.